What's happening, y'all? Welcome to Real Talk Dan. I'm your host, Dan. Running a channel as polished and professional as a defeated president's final month in office. It's January, and you know what that means. Diets. A delicate dance between achieving optimum nutrition and obsessing over it. We've all had moments where we're not happy with where we are weight-wise, whether we're trying to gain or lose weight. Many of us try to lose the maximum amount of weight with the minimum amount of time or effort. So we scour the interwebs looking for that miracle plan that's going to turn us from Steve Rogers to Captain America. I don't have to go 10 plus minutes on a video to tell you why that's a bad idea, but I will. We obsess over making these changes because of what we see on TV, social media, and magazines, if people still read magazines. And companies exploit that to sell us plans and products with catchy names endorsed by Instagram fitness models who never touched the product in their lives. And we all buy in knowing they can't be realistic because we're desperate. There's a whole economy and culture that's built on this. So today we're going to look at diet culture and why we get so caught up in it. Is there a correct way to diet? Is that way really better than the next? Are these diets sustainable? The dangers of fad diets? And most importantly, why your particular diet sucks. Spoiler alert, they all pretty much do, the way people approach them. So let's have a talk. Drop it. So, Dan, of Real Talk Dan fame, what is diet culture anyway? First of all, thank you, handsome brother you. And second of all, diet culture is a mentality that values a person's weight and size over their actual health. And the same ideology is pretty much okay with you compromising your overall health to achieve these size and weight goals. Get thin no matter what. If you die first, oh well. Diet culture tells you that you, at your current stage, are not good enough. You need to get good. Thin good, big bad. Big is big bad. Very, very bad. You know what I mean. So how far back does diet culture go? Further than your father's hairline. But seriously, it goes back centuries. It goes far back to European standards of beauty and how they used to like to compare their bodies to the larger bodies of African women. Fat phobia is rooted so deeply in misogyny and racism, and it was weaponized and used as another way to belittle the African slaves. And the Spanish colonizers would look at the indigenous food and create their own aura of superiority by comparing their own bodies and food to that of the indigenous people. There were advocates that believed that bland food promoted purity. And just like they demonized sex, and denials of the pleasure of the flesh was considered moral and pure, they held these same standards for the pleasures of food. And they looked at people who strayed from this ideology as immoral and uncivilized. And that's why your coworker Becky always brought the bland dishes to the potluck. So yes, the humble beginnings were initiated by some not so humble people. And that mentality and ideology still remains ingrained in our heads to this very day. Diet culture is maintained by fat phobia, and fat phobia is rooted in racism and misogyny. As it became modernized, dieting also became an industry. There is money to be made in making people feel bad about themselves. There's money in creating hard to reach standards and then selling the means for you to reach those standards. They hand you the problem for free, then they charge you for the solution. And this manipulation has helped create a multi-billion-dollar industry that is selling you many food plans and exercise programs and pieces of equipment that you just end up hanging your clothes on. Whatever keeps them off the floor, am I right? Social media does their part with the thinspo crowd. How many of you follow fitness pages on the gram? All these fit bodies with over 100,000 followers. The influencers doing 2 to 3 reps and then they just cut the video. Then sells you on their hard work and some kind of product that they want you to buy. And you buy it. You see the love and adoration that they get and you start hating yourself. You try to do what they do, eat what they supposedly eat, use their products. You lose 2 pounds in 5 weeks and then you give up. You follow another person and you repeat the process. This industry is built on failure. All these attacks on the senses can lead to some severe body dysmorphic issues. You become obsessed with fixing minor or non-existent flaws, whether you see yourself as too skinny or too big. You see that you definitely don't look like that girl or that guy on Instagram with over 1 million followers, so then you see these differences as flaws. And at that point, it won't even matter what people tell you, because you see yourself differently in the mirror. When working on your overall health, you need to work on your relationship with yourself and your relationship with food. And if you had parents who grew up in other countries, then you knew they had their rice and their grains and their carbs. But they didn't have the issues that people have here health-wise. One issue is that over here, our plates are much bigger, and we've been raised to clean that plate. Scrape it clean. Eating to satiety should be the goal. But we always push past that limit because there's still food on the plate and we can't waste that because there's hungry people in this world. Sound familiar? We couldn't leave the table until we finished that plate. We couldn't have that sweet, sweet dessert until our plate was clean. And if you didn't have a dog to sneak some of that food to, you were pretty much effed. It works the other way as well. When dieting and macro chasing, we deny and restrict ourselves depending on the time of day and whether we hit this arbitrary numeric value of those macros. It all comes down to numbers. You go over your macros for one day and think you have to eat rice cakes the next. We hunt for healthier substitutes for food. I mean, bacon is good as hell. Turkey bacon would be good as hell too if bacon didn't already exist. So enjoy your bacon, bro. Every now and then, just enjoy your bacon. And if you're an intuitive eater, please let me know in the comments. Let me know when you started and how it's going for you. Intuitive eating is much more based on behavior than anything else. At our infancy, we were all intuitive eaters. Cry when we're hungry, eat till we're full, then cry about some other thing. Anything. Just cry. But as we get older, we're fed rules and restrictions, and we're guilted if we eat something that we're told is bad for us. And this is where your relationship with yourself kicks in. Listen to your body. If you're hungry and there's food, eat it. Put it away when you're no longer hungry. Don't beat yourself up. Follow cues, not rules. Always remember, the more restrictive your diet, the less sustainable it is. I'll start by saying this. Every diet has studies that support it, and every diet has studies that refute and debunk it. And it's usually debunked by a competing diet. They're all fighting for your dollars. So no matter what your approach, you'll always be right and you'll always be wrong. Except for Dan. Dan is always right. So let's talk about society's favorite diets. Reminder that science is ever changing. New research gets tested and peer reviewed and then marketed. See the USDA food pyramid of the 90s as an example. We'll start with the standard American diet, or SAD, if you will. This is typically high meat, high fat, high carb, low veggie diet, and it usually includes lots of processed foods. But the issue isn't really all that, it's that we run way past the finish line. So it's basically overeating by design. We're trained to ignore our bod and eat and eat and eat. You couple that with our extremely stressful day-to-day, and you get the results that we've seen. We're a very unhealthy country. High blood pressure, heart disease, diabetes, you name it, we got it. Next, let's talk about low-fat diets. The idea is that the body stores fat, so you focus on avoiding fat. You trim the skin off of chicken. You avoid oils and frying. You bake or broil meat in pans that allow the fat to drip off. You drink low-fat milk. You're thinking that if you keep the fat low, you're losing weight, right? Not necessarily. To make up for that lack of fat, you're likely eating more carbohydrates, which can lead to an increase in blood glucose levels, an increase in triglyceride levels, and an increase in insulin levels. So you're eating egg whites and you're drinking low-fat milk, and your body can still be wrecked. Not in all cases, but in some. Next, we'll talk about a diet that I'm very familiar with, the low-carb diet. Primary examples being the ketogenic or the Atkins diet. The strategy is that you're going so low in carbs that your body's looking for an alternate source of energy. That alternate source being fat. People who are fat adapted can carb load one day, fall out of ketosis, and go right back into fat burning the next day by low carbing it again. Being fat adapted provides your body with an abundant energy source, your own stored fat. Low carb diets reportedly keep you satiated more easily and help you avoid overeating for that exact reason. Now, the problem with low carb diets is this: if you're in, you have to be all in. Meaning you can't half-ass it, and you can't jump in if you don't know what you're doing, because that can be very dangerous. If you're attempting to lose body fat, you can't follow the full low-carb, high-fat model. How can you burn body fat while simultaneously taking in some nice, readily available fat from your foods? That's like trying to bail water out of the Titanic with a Home Depot bucket. You have to control your fat intake as well to have your body attack your fat stores. Okay? Also, after a while, you start fishing for replacement recipes for all those carbs that you love and miss so much. And it's a ton of work trying to recreate breads and French fries. Sometimes it's not worth the effort, and you revert back to eating carbs, and then poof, ketogenic diet vanishes, just like the Falcons defense in the fourth quarter of a Super Bowl. See, I can say that because I don't know any Falcons fans. Also, you have to take in electrolytes for the rest of your life, or you die. Slight exaggeration, but you do have to replenish your magnesium, your sodium, and your potassium because your body flushes it out. Your body will tell you when you're low on electrolytes. You'll feel sluggish and sick. Basically a hangover. It's called the keto flu. So ignoring these signs can lead to some serious health issues down the line. I really went in on the keto part. I told you I'm very familiar with it. Next up, paleo. Paleo diets refers to food that would have been eaten during the Paleolithic era, way back when. It's basically foods that you would hunt and gather for. If you don't understand that too much, I'm sure you've watched Man vs. Wild. We all have. Meats, fruits, veggies, nuts, and seeds. It's a return to the essence with eating the same foods that the early humans did. Grains, beans, dairy, and processed foods are a no-no. Problem is, it's expensive as hell. You're cutting out all the affordable foods and you're eating clean, organic, expensive goods. Very expensive goods. Also, you ignore the fact that humans have evolved over that time to be able to eat and break down those foods that have come with the age of farming. And I can already sense the groaning, but now let's talk about veganism without pointing fingers and judging vegans. Can we do it? Yes, we can. Follow my lead, guys. Veganism is more of a lifestyle than an actual diet. You're living off of foods that do not come from animals, so it's predominantly veggies. Vegetables are high in vitamins and minerals and the almighty fiber. People like fiber. People like to load up on fiber to keep their bathroom movements smoother than 90s R&B. Smooth. A vegan diet can be pretty damn cost effective as well, since you're avoiding all the expensive stuff. And if you're an animal rights activist, then this is the move for you. But you're very restrictive and you really limit your food sources. It could make trips to restaurants very difficult as well due to your limited options, unless they have a vegan menu, which I guess more and more places do have now. But still, don't argue against me. Also, you really have to hunt down your protein and your omega-3 sources, especially if you don't F with soy. Essential amino acids and fatty acids are a big deal, guys. You have to eat a ton of veggies to counter any potential calcium deficiencies as well. And on top of all that, you risk everybody disliking you because you like to boast and pontificate about your vegan lifestyle. Just kidding, guys. Don't hit me. One thing that all these diets have in common: the emphasis on restriction. Basically, they're all finding different ways to say the same shit. Eat at a caloric deficit and lose weight. They will give you studies that support their diet while refuting the studies of the other diets. They'll have you in a constant state of monitoring your caloric intake with apps. Lots of calorie counting apps. Track your macros, guys. You're crunching numbers and you're eating more food at the end of the day when you're full because you haven't hit your macro count yet, or you're starving yourself at the end of the day because you hit your macros early, but you're hungry. Damn, my fitness pal. Can I just have a bite of something, please? There are no perfect diets. They all focus on restriction, and that goes back to my earlier discussion about your relationship with food. Eat, people. You're hungry? Eat. You have 20 calories left on MyFitnessPal, and you have a whole dinner left? Eat that dinner. Have some bacon once in a while. You're out with your friends? Have that slice of pizza. Don't guilt yourself. Eat to satiety. Then when you're hungry later, do the same. Avoid arbitrary numbers and take back control of your plate. My girlfriend and I eat completely differently, based on tastes and needs. Different paths, same destination. Like I mentioned earlier, I grew up in a household where I had to push past being full and I had to clean up that plate. It took a lot for me to unlearn that, and I'm still trying to get it right. And remember again, all just trying to find different ways to say the same shit. Nope, it's not. Next section. All kidding aside, most diets come with challenges. And that's because most diets come with restrictions and strict rules. Most of them require you to limit or completely cut off a food group. Keto diet has you saying goodbye to most carbs. Low-fat diets, they limit your consumption of, fat. Pescatarians are not eliminating any food groups, but they are piecing out to most meats with the exceptions of fish and seafood. And veganism takes away your meat as well as your dignity. Don't hit me. With restrictions comes frustrations and possible abandonment of the diet altogether. People tend to stray from the strict rules of their diet. I mean, you can go a whole month doing keto, and then next thing you know, you're binging French fries and pasta. Many people beat themselves up for doing this, and then they double down on the restrictions, which leads to even more frustrations. And eventually they free themselves from this oppressive, restrictive diet, but they beat themselves up along the way. Some people do what they call a cheat meal or a cheat day, or they end up doing that impromptu. Most of your diet's overseers, aka those Facebook groups that you're in, or that voice in your head, speak ill of this practice. It has to be all misery all the time. This strict adherence to the rules of your diet and the discouragement of actually enjoying your food will push you far, far away. Unless you enjoy the food you're eating with these diets and are eating to satisfy your hunger versus chasing macros, and this is your personal way of eating versus some kind of fad, then many of these diets can be miserable. Because you would never say, "Can I have some more moss, please?" You're doing this because you feel you have to. If you turn food intake into a job instead of something to enjoy, then to be honest, you'll probably be right back where you started from. And in actuality, you're probably better off there. Probably be happy at least. Food is one of life's little joys. Enjoy it. Now, fad diets are fed to us through the corporate machine, and they thrive through the siphoning of your hard-earned dollars. For example, how many products in the store do you see that they slap a big giant keto logo on? It's all marketing and exploitation. And most of these products do not do what the package claims it does. They prey on the philosophy that slim is good, big is bad. They implant that problem in your head and sell you the solution, or the supposed solution. If a specific diet is actually your food preference and your way of eating, and you know what you're doing, and you know how to plug the holes, then you're not in any danger here. But many people are not as knowledgeable, and they look for a quick fix or a magic pill, and that can be dangerous. First issue with fad diets is due to the restrictive nature and the fact that you're restricting foods or food groups, then you guessed it, they come with side effects. I mentioned some of them when discussing specific diets earlier, but your average bad day could include headaches, nausea, weakness and body aches, constipation, and an overall shitty attitude. Fad diets are also likely to fail due to these side effects and the restrictive nature as previously outlined. Most of them are scams and offer false promises, so you jump in and end up doing more harm to your body than good. Your body can also be genetically predisposed to be a certain size based on food consumption. Often when you crash diet, you're going against the natural order of things. This is partly why so many people, when they crash diet, they end up gaining all the weight back. It's your body's way of righting your wrongs. I won't tell you how to eat, but the important thing is to enjoy your food. Don't overdo anything. Eat to satisfy. I had initially mentioned the belief that larger bodies are considered unhealthy and that thin, slim people were perceived as healthy, but this couldn't be further from the truth. One of the biggest health-related fallacies is the BMI, the body mass index. It measures your height versus your weight, and it doesn't care where that weight comes from, the shape of your body, or any other variables. It basically says that if your BMI is over 30, their arbitrary number, then you're overweight and unhealthy. BMI is basically the electoral college of the health industry. Please see my previous video for my take on the electoral college. It's 27-minute long video, but it's wedged in there somewhere. It's like an Easter egg or something, or a needle in a haystack. Go find it. But what the BMI fails to recognize is that there can be some large people that are exceptionally healthy. Then there could be some thin people that could be rather unhealthy. Look at some players in the NFL. Some of them can appear quite doughy, but they're world-class athletes. Meanwhile, you can have some slender people who can't even go up 2 flights of stairs. Body size can be genetic. I had said earlier that you can be predisposed to being large or being small. Your body might have a specific idea as to what size it wants you to be. And when you get caught up in dieting, you're probably going against that. This is why some people can burn less calories than other people and still maintain the same weight. Some people are required to burn more to maintain or lose weight. It's all by design. There's some thin people out there who know they're thin and think they can eat everything they want. Then you know what? They eat everything they want. They eat to excess. And some of them might not even see a need to exercise or any need for movement because they're already thin. As you know, eating too much of certain foods can lead to health issues. And some of them are dumbfounded when they find out they do have these health issues and they're diagnosed with cancer or heart disease or other ailments. Also, you can't always look at a thin person and see what other damage they're probably doing to themselves. Heavy drinking, drugs, cigarettes, painkillers, etc. Although some of them could be blatantly obvious, aka meth heads. Other people can have endless issues and you couldn't tell by their IG pictures. The human body is a book. Do some studying because the answers are not on the back cover. Speaking of books, to get really in depth with all this would require a book or a podcast series and not one simple little YouTube video. But hopefully I can point you in the right direction. A couple of books that I've purchased that I'd like to share are Health at Every Size: The Surprising Truth About Your Weight by Linda Bacon. Great name. And Fearing the Black Body: The Racial Origins of Fat Phobia by Sabrina Strings. There's many really good podcasts as well, such as Food Psych and Diet Riot. They can explain far better than I the origin and dangers of diet culture, as well as better approaches that keep you from getting caught up in this cycle. Thank you for tuning into my one-sided conversation. Again, let's try to make it two-sided and drop a comment whether you agree or disagree. Let's have a spirited but respectful conversation. And remember to bless me with a like, a share, and a subscribe, and hit the bell icon to know when my videos drop, and whatever else YouTube requires for me to hit their algorithm. You know how it is. I'm shooting to do a video every week or every 2 weeks, depending on the time. I'll keep you posted on Instagram and Twitter. But I do have a job, guys, and it may or may not be possible because work takes up most of my time. Which brings me to my next topic: grind culture, and how much of our rest we're willing to sacrifice for this capitalistic machine. Don't sleep on that one. So until next time, this is Dan signing off. Remember to keep talking. Real talking. Boom.